श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविंदा गोविंदा सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो नमः सद्गुरुभ्यो नमो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रय विनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरह कातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। यस्वानुभावमखिल श्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतितितीर्षतां तमोन्धं संसारिणां करुणयाः पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनुमुपयामि गुरुं मुनीनां। योगीन्द्राय नमस्तस्मै शुकाय ब्रह्मरूपिणे संसारसर्पदष्टं यो विष्णुरातम् अमूमुचत् कालव्यालमुखग्रास त्रासनिर्नाशहेतवे श्रीमद्भागवतं शास्त्रं कलौकीरेण भाषितम् एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्यै न विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत्। ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यातहं वन्दे सम्प्रदायप्रवर्तकान्। भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्व विग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्र योगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे। कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुम् अवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात्। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे। मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वथा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव। श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः श्रीहरये नमः। गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविंदा गोविंदा सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so we'll do the review of 3.9. We'll start from 7. I think the two people can do 18, 18. So Priya, Arun, Ninga, half one, and then Sundari, can you do the other half? Ninga start pannilla, Priya.
Rajesh, I think she might have dropped.
No, she's there. Priya Arun is there.
Irkala.
Yeah.
She's on mute.
No, she's not mute, but we cannot hear you though. Yeah.
I don't see her at all.
I see her. Okay. Sundari, Ninga first porilla pinna. Priya, maybe you might have to drop back and join.
Okay, I'll start.
Kekadu Priya, yeah.
Sonata?
Yeah, start pannunga Priya, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
दैवेन देहतदियो भवतः प्रसङ्गात् सर्वाशुभोपशमनाद्विमुखेन्द्रियाये कुर्वन्ति कामसुखलेशलवाय दीनाः लोभाभिभूतमनसो कुशलानि शश्वत् मुहुरद्यमानाः शीतोष्णवातवर्षैरतरेतराश्च काम
इतरेतराच वर्षैर इतरेतराच
वर्षैरितरेतरा च कामाग्निनाच्युतरुषा च सुधुर्भरेण सम्पश्यतो मन उरुक्रमसीदते मे यावत् पृथक्त्वम् इदमात्मन इन्द्रियार्थमाया बलं भगवतो जन ईश पश्येत तावन्न संश्रुतिरसौ प्रतिसङ्क्रमेत व्यर्थाभिदुःखनिवहं वहति क्रियार्था अन्यावृतार्थकरणानि निश्चयाना मनोरथधिया क्षणभग्ननिद्राः दैवाहतार्थरचना ऋषयोऽपि देव युष्मत्प्रसङ्गविमुक्ता इह संसरन्ति त्वं भावयोगपरिपावितहृत्सरोजे आसे सृतेक्षितपतो ननु नाथ पुंसां यद्यद्धियात उरुघाय विभावयन्ति तत्तद्वपुः प्रणयसे सदनुग्रहाय नातिप्रसीदति ततोपचितोपचारैः आराधितः सुरगणैर्हृति बद्धकामैः दययासत्
अलभ्ययैको अलभ्ययैको
अलभ्ययैको नानाजनेष्वहितः सुहृद् अन्तरात्मा पुंसामतो विविधकर्मभिरध्वराद्यैः दानेन शोगरतपसा पुंसामतो विविधकर्मभिरध्वराद्यैः दानेन शोग्रतपसा व्रतचर्यया च आराधनं भगवतस्तव सत्क्रियार्थो धर्मोर्बितः कर्हिचिद्रियते न यत्र शश्वत्स्वरूपमहमैमहसैव निपीतभेदमोहाय बोधधिषणाय नमः परस्मै विश्वोद्भवस्थितिलयेषु निमित्तलीला रासाय ते नम इदं चक्रुमेश्वराय यस्यावतारगुणकर्म विडम्बनानि नामानि ये सुविगमे विवशा गृह्णन्ति तेनैकजन्मशमलं सहसैव हित्वा संयान्त्यपावृतमृतं तमजं प्रपद्ये यो वा अहं च गिरिशश्च विभुस्वयं च स्थित्युद्भवप्रलयहेतव आत्ममूलं भित्त्वा त्रिपाद्ववृद एक उरुप्ररोषः तस्मै नमो भगवते भुवनद्रुमाय
And the third line uru prarohaha hasam prarohaha
भित्त्वा त्रिपाद्ववृद एक उरुप्ररोहः
praroha correct prarohaha
okay
no visargam illa no visargam
visarga ಇದೆ prarohaha
visargam
लोको विकर्म निरतः कुशले प्रमद्दः कर्मण्ययं त्वदुतिते भवदर्शने स्वे यस्तावदस्य बलवानिह जीविताशां सद्यश्चित्तविभ्रमः चिन्नत्यनिमिषाय नमोऽस्तु तस्मै बिबेम्य विपरार्दिश அங்க வரமாட்டேங்கிறது ராஜேஷ் கரெக்டா த ரெண்டு
माद्बिबेम्य हमपि द्विपरार्धधिष्ण्यम्
परार्ध दृष्ण्यम् ओके यस्माद्बिबेम्यहमबिद् विपरार्धदृष्ण्यम् अद्यासितः सकललोकनमस्कृतं यत् तेपे तपो बहुसवो वरुरुत्समानः तस्मै नमो भगवते दिमक्काय तुभ्यम् तिर्यङ् मनुष्य विबुधादिषु जीवयोनिषु आत्मेश्चयात्मकृतसेतु परीप्सयायः रेमे निरस्त रतिरप्यविरुद्धदेहः तस्मै नमो भगवते पुरुषोत्तमाय
Third line, yeah, ratirapya varuddha. You said viruddha, it's varuddha deha.
Sorry, वरुद्धदेहः ओके यो विद्ययानुभवतोऽपि दशार्धवृत्त्या निद्रामुवाह जठरीकृतलोकयात्रः अन्तर्जले हि कशिपुस्पर्शानुकूलां भीमोर्मिमालिनिजनस्य सुखं विवृण्वन् यन्नाभिपद्मभवनादहम् आसमीढ्य लोकत्रयोपकरणो यदनुग्रहेण तस्मै नमस्त उदरस्त भवाय योगनिद्रावसान विकसन्नलिनेक्षणाय सोऽयं समस्तजगदां सुहृतेः आत्मा सत्त्वेन मृडयते भगवान् बकेन तेनैव मे दृशम् अनुस्पृशदात् यथाहं स्रक्ष्यामि पूर्ववदितं प्रणतप्रियोऽसौ एष प्रपन्नवरदो रमयात्मशक्त्या यद्यत् करिष्यति गृहीतगुणावतारः तस्मिन् विक्रममिदं सृजतोऽपि चेतो युज्जीत कर्मशमलं च यथा विजह्यां
Sorry, yunjita, in sound, yunjita.
ओके युञ्जीत कर्मशमलं தான சொல்றேன்
Correct, yeah.
ओके सॉरी नाभिहृदादिह सतोऽम्भसि यस्य पुंसो विज्ञानशक्तिरहम् आसम् अनन्तशक्तेः रूपं विचित्रमिदमस्य विवृण्वतो मे मारीरिशिष्ट निगमस्य गिरां विसर्गः सोऽसावदप्रकरुणो भगवान् विवृद्ध प्रेमस्मितेन नयनाम्बुरुहं विजृम्भन् उत्थाय विश्वविजयाय च नो विषादं माध्व्यागिरापनय तात्पुरुषः पुराणः Sorry, Rajesh, mistakes.
No. The stuti is always hard, so good.
मैत्रेय उवाच स्वसम्भवं निशाम्यैवं तपो विद्या समाधिभिः यावन्मनोवचस्तुत्वा विरराम सखिन्नवत् अथाभिप्रेतम् अन्वीक्ष्य ब्रह्मणो मधुसूदनः विषण्णचेतसं तेन कल्पव्यतिकराम्भसा लोकसंस्थानविज्ञाने आत्मनः परिखिद्यतः तमाह गाधया वाचा कश्मलं शमयन्निव श्रीभगवानुवाच मा वेदगर्भगास्तन्द्रीं सर्ग उद्यमम् आवह तन्मया पादितं ह्यग्रे यन्मां प्रार्थयते भवान् भूयस्त्वं तप आत्तिष्ठ विद्यां चैव मदाश्रयाम् ताभ्याम् अन्तर्हृदि ब्रह्मन् लोकान् द्रक्ष्यस्य पावृतान् तत आत्मनि लोके च भक्तियुक्तसमाहितः द्रष्टासि मां ततं ब्रह्मन् मयि लोकांस्त्वमात्मनः यदा तु सर्वभूतेषु दारुष्वग्निमिव स्थितं प्रतिचक्षित
Somebody is not mute. Go ahead, Sundri.
प्रतिचक्षित मां लोको जह्यात्तर्ह्येव कश्मलं यदा रहितमात्मानं भूतेन्द्रियगुणाशयैः स्वरूपेण मयोपेतं पश्यन् स्वराज्यं पृच्छति नानाकर्मवितानेन प्रजा बह्विः सिसृक्षतः नात्मावसीदत्यस्मिंस्ते वर्षीयान्मदनुग्रहः ऋषिमाद्यं न बध्नाति पापीयां त्वां रजो गुणः यन्मनो मयि निर्बद्धं प्रजाः सृजतोऽपि ते ज्ञातोऽहं भवता त्वद्य दुर्विज्ञेयोऽपि देहिनां यन्मां त्वं मन्यसे युक्तं भूतेन्द्रियगुणात्मभिः तुभ्यमद्विचिकित्सायम् आत्मा मे दर्शितो बहिः नालेन सलिले मूलं पुष्करस्य विचिन्वतः
And the first line just before the comma, chikitsayam.
चिकित्सायां
Sayam. I think sayam, you said sayam.
नालेन सलिले तुभ्यमद्विचिकित्सायाम् आत्मा ते दर्शितो बहिः नालेन सलिले मूलं पुष्करस्य विचिन्वतः यच्च काष्ठाङ्गमत्स्तोत्रं मत्कथाभ्युदयाङ्कितं यद्वा तपसि ते निष्ठा स एष मदनुग्रहः प्रीतोऽहमस्तु भद्रं ते लोकानां विजयेच्छया यदस्तौषीर्गुणमयं निर्गुणं मानुवर्णयन् य एतेन पुमान् नित्यं स्तुत्वा स्तोत्रेण मां भजेत् तस्याशु सम्प्रसीदेयं सर्वकामेश्वरेश्वरः
Sarvakamavareshwarah.
सर्वकामवरेश्वरः पूर्तेन तपसा यज्ञैः दानैर्योगसमाधिना रद्राद्धं निःश्रेयसं पुंसां मत्प्रीतिस्तत्त्वविन्मतम् अहमात्मात्मनां धातः प्रेष्ठः सान् प्रेयसामपि अतो मयि रतिं कुर्यात् देहादिर्यत्कृते प्रियः सर्ववेदमयेनेदम् आत्मनात्मात्म योनिना प्रजा सृजयथा पूर्वं याश्च मय्यनुशेरते मैत्रेय उवाच तस्मा एवं जगत्सृष्टे प्रधानपुरुषेश्वरः व्यजेदं स्वेन रूपेण कञ्चनाभस्तिरोधदे.
And so in the first line, Jagat, two things, Jagat Srashtre, and the tra sound there. And then the next one is Pradhana Purusheshwaraha.
तस्मा एवं जगत्सृष्टे प्रधानपुरुषेश्वरः व्यजेदं स्वेन रूपेण कञ्जनाभस्तिरोधदे इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे नवमोऽध्यायः.
To start the 3.10, I'll first say the meaning of it. And I was just thinking, where this comes in Narayaniam for your reference. And the interesting part is there are only 2 stanzas in Narayaniam where this entire 3.10 is condensed. So it is the 9th Dashakam, 9th stanza of Narayaniam, 9th Dashakam, 9th stanza, and 10th Dashakam, 1st stanza. Because the 9th Dashakam, last stanza, Bhattaripada always says, with this you created, and then please eradicate my ailment. So that stanza you can kind of ignore. There's not much content in there. So literally only 2 stanzas in Narayaniam, which is coming, 3.9, 9th Dashakam, 9th stanza, 10th Dashakam, 1st stanza. Just those 2 stanzas is the entire Dashamodhyaya, right here, which is about 29 stanzas which are there, just that description of it, right? So we saw in the previous one, kind of 2 chapters back also, about Brahma coming, a new day of Brahma, where Brahma is coming from the Nabi, and we saw the lotus kind of description of the bud, which had everything, and then Brahma wondering where he was, then he does a stuti, then the Bhagavan comes, then, he tells Brahma, okay, you're going to get all the knowledge, right? Just go meditate. So now then the story is continuing from there, right? So Vidura is asking, okay, now tell me, how does Brahma from his own energy and from his own body generate everything else that is going to be generated? So talk about that, right? And a little bit here, the Sutta Pauranika, remember this is a nested loop, right? So Vidura Maitreya conversation happening. Outside of that, Parikshit Shukabhrahmam conversation happening. Outside of that is a Sutta Pauranika and Saunaka Rishi conversation happening. So that is just coming for just one sentence in one stanza in between, to just, they are asking what is happening, and then the same story is continuing anyways. So coming to the main content of it, so Bhagavan says to Brahma, you go meditate for some more time, you're going to get the knowledge. So now we saw in this the description, the bud of the lotus which came because it's a new day. That was everything which had already got dissolved at the end of the previous kalpa of Brahma, at the end of the day of Brahma. But we said some regions still remain, but everything else had got dissolved. That just comes. It's a kind of a storage, right? Like we said, it's like a disk which has everything. Now Brahma now has to go and distribute it or start, spreading it or creating it now. So in this, a couple of words are used here. One, it says that Brahma drinks off all the water. Now we have to remember that there's no physical water like the water we are thinking here, right? That water is kind of when there's nothingness in the universe, that matter that is there, which is the nothingness, that's what is referred to as karana jal. It is not the physical water like we drink, right? It's called the causal water, because that is what is remaining when nothing else is there. So that is there. So that is number one. Second, it says there's a lot of wind which Brahma has to then control. And what this means, think of it as the cosmic forces. A destruction has happened, and now something is coming, like a storm has happened, right? It has wiped and broken everything off. Now, certain things are preserved, but now when you have to go recreate, it's a little bit of, you have to clean up or reset a bunch of things. That's what Brahma is doing. So here when it says Brahma is taking control over the water and taking control over the wind, really what Brahma is doing is, okay, I'm now going to create, I have this everything available, I have to reset everything and taking control of what is happening in the cosmos, which is what he's doing. So Brahma is now doing it, and now he starts figuring out, okay, how do I go and expand everything? Then the second thing it will talk about is that, again, everything is talked about in the context of the lotus, right? So we have to kind of think, as it says, the lotus, when it opens up, right? Like I said, the bud, you open up the bud, the petals of the lotus expands and you get the full lotus, right? You have access to it. So that is how it is explained. And I think earlier I had also said, is essentially you have to think of Brahma at a very high level, like a farmer, right? Who has got the seeds of everything that is required, and Brahma is then helping cultivate it, because all of that is given by Bhagavan. So what Brahma it says is, Brahma, you then go and then you go into the center of the lotus and then you start creating everything else. But all of it is already available. Brahma, you're just doing the final step of creation. So it says, first you go create 3 parts, which we said, which is the upper worlds, the middle world, and then the bottom world, right? And then it says you're dividing that into 14 different worlds, which we have already seen before. So that's what it says. You create those 14 different worlds, which are the upper spiritual worlds, which are the 6 worlds. And then there's a middle bhuloka, and then there is a bottom 7 different worlds. So total 14 different worlds, right? For those of us, who do pranayama, we'll say Om Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, Satyam. That's what we do in our pranayama. So all what that is telling is, from Bhuhu, which is the middle layer, which is where the earth is, that earthly plane layer, all the upper worlds are higher consciousness layers. So beings which are there in those layers have a higher consciousness than the earthly beings. So when you're doing that pranayama, really what you're doing is, I'm invoking the energy of all the upper level beings, right? Of the energy which is there in all of those worlds. The bottom level worlds are lower consciousness, so we don't want to care about it, because we are already elevated. When you're born in Bhuloka, you're already elevated in terms of consciousness from those lower worlds. Anyway, so with that, it says Brahma goes and creates those 14 layers, 14 worlds, which are like physical, the planets or the stars, everything is getting created. That's step number 1. So next section, about around 10 stanza or something, then Vidura then asks Maitreya, tell me about time, right? And the details of the time, all the way from how much it takes for the smallest of a atomic particle to the end of life of Brahma, is covered in the 11th chapter, the details of time. But here at a very high level, Vidura is asking Maitreya, tell me how time is used. How does Bhagavan use time? Because time is considered as an extension of the Bhagavan itself, right? And the way to simply think of it as, now that is like a remote control that Bhagavan has, right? So when it says that this creation, everything that is happening, dissolution, sustenance, everything that is happening, it's like a remote control, right? So he presses start, the process starts. He presses stop, the process ends, right? So he says that is how he says that time is nothing but an extension of Bhagavan. So when the appropriate time comes, the process starts. When the appropriate time comes, a certain process ends. So he just at a very high level summarizes, saying that time is nothing but when Bhagavan is manifesting as Rama or Krishna, he's taking a form. But you think of time as an unmanifested form of Bhagavan. It doesn't have a shape, but it is no different than the actual Bhagavan itself. So he just gives a very high level explanation like that. And the details of the time itself, we're going to see only in the 11th chapter. So with that, then he goes into the creation, right, that Brahma is doing. So first he starts off by saying there are two types of creations. There is a sarga, which is called as a primary creation, and then there is a visarga, which is called as a secondary creation. Totally there are 10 creations. He breaks up the entire creation process into 10 steps. And he says the first step, the first creation, which is not quite a creation, but kind of where you are starting from, is when we first saw the Prakriti being there, which is then triggered, which is that, Karanodakashayi Krishna Vishnu triggers the Prakriti to create all this Brahmanda. He says that Prakriti is number one creation, which Bhagavan does. Then he says, then there are 6 other creations which are done by the Vishnu itself, which we saw, the Mahat Tattva, Ahankaram, Tanmatram, Panchabhutam, all of that we already saw. He just summarizes all of that, saying this is first, this is second, Mahat Tattvam is second, Ahankaram is third, the Indriyangal are fourth. He kind of lists all of those things in this chapter, just as a summary, right? The first 6 creations, the first 7 creations. Now there are three more creations left. So he says these 3 creations are what are done by Brahma everywhere in all the worlds, which is Brahma does. So the first creation, and primarily here Maitreya talks only in the context of Bhuloka, because he's telling this to Vidura. So he talks about the context of Bhuloka. However, the 10th creation is going to talk about the demigods. So the 7th one he talks about is all the vegetative life that is there. Everything from plants and trees, right? So, and this doesn't necessarily mean it is going in that order. He says the 7th creation is everything related to vegetation, because he is talking in terms of the consciousness. So he says here, while the plants and the trees that you're seeing, while they cannot move, they cannot talk like human beings can, but it says they also have a life force in them, right? They have some prana in them, because of which they are able to grow. So for them to be able to grow, it needs to have some life force in them, right? He says it has life force. And this 7th creation, he says the food is going from bottom to top. So if you think of a plant, you put the water at the bottom, right? And then the plant is going up, because he says that food is going bottom to top, and we'll see how the other two happen. So that is number one. And he says, while these are completely they're not fully unconscious, but they have very little level of consciousness, right? So he says you cannot compare, it's lower than animals, way lower than humans, right? They cannot think like humans can, they cannot think like animals can, but it says they can feel the pain though, slightly, right? So he says, and that's done this, when they were talking about, this redwood forest in California, when you chop off the tree, they say they can actually see some distress signals which is actually sent to all the other trees when one tree is getting chopped, because they're all connected at the root at the bottom. So it can send some distress signals. So what he's trying to say is the very, very, very lowest of consciousness, but they're still beings which are part of creation, which have some level of consciousness in them. That is the vegetative creation, right? Which is 7th. Then 8th he comes to are all the animals and birds, that level of creation. So he says they are higher level of consciousness than the plants, but they are primarily driven by instincts. they do not have too much of deep thinking and reflection like we have. They do not have too much memory. Like we can remember what happened 5 years ago, what somebody told us. When somebody tells us something, we have the ability to contemplate on things and then we react. We can decide not to react also, right? So we have all this intelligence. Well, he says the animals are not like that. They're much more ignorant than humans are, and it's much more instinctive based. They are more concerned about, am I going to survive? What am I going to eat next? And then they still know their relatives and families, right? They also have their families which they protect and everything. So he kind of talks about that, and he talks about the 28 different types of animals and everything which are there, which are like animals which have 4 feet, things which have 2 feet, and things like that. And here he says the food is going from one side to side. We generally think of most animals, they eat on one side and the body is going the other way, right? The animals and birds. So that's it. So that is the 8th type of creation. And he says, and he also refers very briefly saying, while the animals in Bhuloka have this lower consciousness, when you go to the upper worlds, there can be animal-like beings, but it is just higher level spiritual beings who decide to take that shape and form. That doesn't mean their consciousness are low, like the animals and birds which are on earth, on the Bhuloka, right? So that is kind of one slight clarification. So it can also exist in other planets, but they are of way higher consciousness. In earth related, these are things. Then he talks about the ninth creation are the humans which are being created in the Bhuloka level, right? So he's saying this one is higher level consciousness than the animals and everything. And here he says the food is going top to down. Like in the plants, we saw bottom to up, animals we saw going from side, humans, it goes top to down. And he says that animals, while animals are primarily driven by the tamoguna, which is ignorance, humans are primarily driven by the rajoguna, which is passion and desire. So everything we do, we only do when there is a desire to obtain something, right? So we're always passionate about something. So that is the desire that is there in all the humans. And then he goes to the last creation, which is all the demigods and everything who are there in all the upper worlds. So he talks about the devas, he talks about the gandharvas, apsaras, he just gives the names, yakshas, siddha, charana, vidyadhara, all these names are going to come. There's no definition of who is what though at this point, but just says these are all the demigods who are present in the upper worlds, who all have a higher level of consciousness than the humans who are actually there. Right? So that is how this chapter comes to an end, where all these are the creations that Brahma is doing, right? And eventually then later on, but doesn't mean these people are created yet. The actual first person who is going to come are the Sanat Kumaras, who are going to come much later. But this is just telling these are all the creation that Brahma does, right? And these are all the types of creations that Brahma does, right? And the only exception it's given here is the Sanat Kumaras are kind of both combination of sarga, which means Bhagavan does, and visarga, which is Brahma does. That's because they come out of the mind of Brahma, but then they are primarily spiritual beings who have the energy of Bhagavan. So they are the only exception where it will say they are both sarga and visarga. Otherwise, all of these other creations which are happening are done by Brahma, which is visarga. So with that, this chapter comes to an end.
When Brahma's day ends, is everything dissolving into Brahma or to Bhagavan?
It goes into the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, including Brahma.
Okay. And then the first 6 Bhagavan creates and Brahma starts 7.
Yeah. So if you think of the day of Brahma, which is different from the first day of Brahma, but any day of Brahma, right? The 6 things are kind of there already.
Okay.
In the new day of Brahma. The first 6 things are already there. Okay. All of these other things which we spoke about are not there. Including all the planetary systems, those are all not there. So that all goes into Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From that Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, all of this comes like the lotus bud, which we said, it's kind of there. Then Brahma first comes. And then he creates all these things. But these are all the creations he does. But what he creates first, what he creates second is only going to come later. Okay, but this is just categorization of the creation that we saw here. The 10 categories of creation that happens.
So it's the same process repeated every time. Is that the same word? Same
they will actually say at the very end, saying that every day the same process repeats. Every day of Brahma, the same process repeats.
So Rajesh, the 1 through 6 comes from that Visarga?
1 through 6 comes when Brahma's life ends. First,
Okay.
when the Karanodakashayi Vishnu triggers, we saw that creation of the Hiranyandam, the Andham that got created first. That is when the layers, that's when the first 6 are getting created, right? And then we said that you, Vishnu, then all those devatas, kind of those, the roles were there, but they were not able to do. So you yourself, O Vishnu, went in and then you stitched all of them together to create that Brahmandam, right? That once it is created, that entire Brahmandam, the shell of it, I'm not saying there's a physical shell, I'm just saying there's a virtual shell. If you think of a virtual shell, that remains till the end of the life of Brahma. And at the end of the life of Brahma, all of that goes into the Karna of the Vashayi Vishnu. But during the various days of Brahma, the inside portion of that keeps changing, or it keeps going back, coming out, going in and coming out, right? Every single day. Okay, and we'll see some of that is going to come when we talk about the life of Brahma, which is going to come later in the 11th chapter about what is Brahma's day, what happens, what is Brahma's year, what happens, and all that. So, okay, so let me see the time, 2:36. Okay, Attai, Gopantete, you can be a student, and Sabita, you can be a student first half. So we'll just do one time today since we're already at 2:36. Just do one quick thing here. Okay, Vidura Vacha. अंतर्हिते भगवति ब्रह्मा लोक पितामहः प्रजास् ससर्ज कतिधा दैहिकीर् मानसीर् विभुः विदुरौवाच अंतर्हिते भगवति ब्रह्मा लोक पितामहः प्रजास् ससर्ज कतिधा दैहिकीर् मानसीर् विभुः अते इरिकेल्ल निप्पो सविता नींगा फर्स्ट पोंगो
विदुर उवाच अंतर्हिते भगवति ब्रह्मा लोकपितामहः प्रजा ससर्ज कतिधा दैहिकीर्मानसीर्विभुः.
She came off mute.
Nana.
Anigara.
विदुरौवाच अन्तर्हिते भगवति ब्रह्मा लोकपितामह प्रजा ससर्ज कतिधा दैहिकी मानसीर्विभुः
ये च मे भगवन् पृष्टाः. So that if we are removing, putting the visarga and comma, त्वय्यर्था बहु वित्तम तान् वदस्वानुपूर्वेन, one word, वदस्वानुपूर्वेन, छिन्दि नस् सर्व संशयान्. ये च मे भगवन् पृष्टाः त्वय्यर्था बहुवित्तम तान् वदस्वानुपूर्वेन छिन्दि नः सर्व संशयान्.
ये च मे भगवन् पृष्टाः त्वय्यर्था बहुवित्तम तान् वदस्वानुपूर्वेन छिन्दि नः सर्व संशयान्.
ये च मे भगवन् पृष्टाः त्वय्यर्था बहुवित्तम तान् वदस्वानुपूर्वेण छिन्दि नः सर्व संशयान्.
स्तुतौ वाच एवं संचोदितस्तेन क्षत्रा कौशारवो मुनिः प्रीतः प्रत्याह तान् प्रश्नान्, हृदि स्थानत भार्गव. Like I said, the Sutta Vacha, Sutta Pauranika is coming here very briefly just as a reminder that is the outer thread of conversations, right? Sutta Vacha evam sanchoditastena kshatra kausharavo munihi pritah pratyahatan prashnan hridisthanata bhargava.
Sutta Vacha evam sanjoditastena क्षत्रा कौशारवो मुनिः प्रीतः प्रत्याहतान् प्रश्नान् हृदिस्थानथ भार्गव.
Hridi is one word. Hridi is one word. Sthanata is second word.
हृदिस्थानथ भार्गव.
Sutta Vacha evam sanchoditastena क्षत्रा कौशारवो मुनिः प्रीतप्रत्याहतान् प्रश्नान् हृदि स्थानथ भार्गव।
मैत्रेयो उवाच विरिञ्चोऽपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः विरिञ्च referring to Brahma. That name will come multiple times through Bhagavatam, multiple places. Atmanyatmanam, one word, Atmanyatmanam aveshya, yadaha Bhagavan ajaha. Maitreyo uvacha virinchopi tatha chakre divyam varshashatam tapah atmanyatmanamaveshya yadaha Bhagavanajah.
मैत्रेय उवाच विरिञ्चोऽपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मन्यात्मानम् आवेश्य यदाह भगवान् अजः।
मैत्रेय उवाच विरिञ्चोऽपि तथा चक्रे दिव्यं वर्षशतं तपः आत्मन्यात्मानमावेश्य यदाह भगवानजः।
तद् बिलोक्याब्ज सम्भूतो वायुना यदधिष्ठितः पद्मम् अम्भश्च, if you want to break it that much, पद्मम् अम्भश्च तत्काल put a plus कृतवीर्येण कम्पितम्। तद्विलोक्याब्ज सम्भूतो वायुना यदधिष्ठितः पद्मम् अम्भश्च तत्काल कृतवीर्येण कम्पितम्।
तद्विलोक्याब्जसम्भूतो वायुना यदधिष्ठितः पद्मम् अम्बश्च तत्कालकृतवीर्येण कम्पितम्।
तद्विलोक्याब्जसम्भूतो वायुना यदधिष्ठितः पद्ममम्भश्च तत्कालकृतवीर्येण कम्पितम्।
तपसा ह्येदमानेन विद्यया चात्म संस्थया बिवृद्ध विज्ञान बलो न्यपात वायुम सहाम्भसा. This is saying because of the knowledge that he has gotten, Brahma, he is able to control the wind and the water. Like I gave you what the meaning of that is, but because of it, he is able to get all these cosmic forces under control, so he can create the worlds. तपसा ह्येदमानेन विद्यया चात्म संस्थया बिवृद्ध विज्ञान बलो न्यपाद्वायुं सहाम्भसा.
तपसा ह्येधमानेन विद्यया चात्मसंस्थया विवृद्धविज्ञानबलो न्यपाद्वायुं सहाम्भसा।
तपसा ह्येधमानेन विद्यया चात्मसंस्थया विवृद्धविज्ञानबलो न्यपाद्वायुं सहाम्भसा।
तद् विलोक्य वियत् व्यापि short p पुष्करं यदधिष्ठितम् अनेन लोकान् प्राग्लीनान् कल्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत्. You cannot break that word, so कल्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत्. तद्विलोक्य वियद्व्यापि पुष्करं यदधिष्ठितम् अनेन लोकान् प्राग्लीनान् कल्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत्.
तद्विलोक्य वियद्व्यापि पुष्करं यदधिष्ठितम् अनेन लोकान् प्राग्लीनान् कल्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत्।
तद्विलोक्य वियद्व्यापि पुष्करं यदधिष्ठितम् अनेन लोकान् प्राग्लीनान् कल्पितास्मीत्य चिन्तयत्।
पद्मकोशं तदाविश्य भगवत् कर्म चोदितः एकं व्यभाङ्क्षीद् उरुधा. If you want to break it, that the व्यभाङ्क्षीद् उरुधा त्रिधा भाव्यं द्विसप्तधा. So he first breaks it into 3 and then breaks it into 14, which is the 14 verse there. पद्मकोशं तदाविश्य भगवत् कर्म चोदितः एकं व्यभाङ्क्षीद् उरुधा त्रिधा भाव्यं द्विसप्तधा.
पद्मकोशं तदाविश्य भगवत्कर्म चोदितः एकं व्यभाङ्क्षीदुरुधा त्रिधा भाव्यं द्विसप्तधा.
पद्मकोशं तदाविश्य भगवत्कर्मचोदितः एकं व्यभाङ्क्षी दुर्धा त्रिधा भाव्यं विसप्तधा
एतावान् इन् जीवलोकस्य संस्था भेदसमाहृतः धर्मस्य ह्यनिमित्तस्य विपाकः परमेष्ठ्यसौ एतावान् जीवलोकस्य संस्थाभेदसमाहृतः धर्मस्य ह्यनिमित्तस्य विपाकः परमेष्ठ्यसौ
एतवान् जीवलोकस्य संस्थाभेदसमाहृतः धर्मस्य ह्यनिमित्तस्य विपाकः परमेष्ठ्यसौ
एतावान् जीवलोकस्य संस्थाभेदसमाहृतः धर्मस्य ह्यनिमित्तस्य विपाकः परमेष्ठ्यसौ
विदुरौवाच यदार्थ बहुरूपस्य हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः if you want to break the कालाख्यं लक्षणं ब्रह्मन् यथा वर्णय नः प्रभो विदुरौवाच यदार्थ बहुरूपस्य हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः कालाख्यं लक्षणं ब्रह्मन् यथा वर्णय नः प्रभो
विदुरौवाच यदार्थबहुरूपस्य हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः कालाख्यं लक्षणं ब्रह्मन् यथा वर्णय नः प्रभो
विदुरौवाच यथार्थबहुरूपस्य हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः कालाख्यं लक्षणं ब्रह्मन् यथा वर्णयनः प्रभो
मैत्रेयोवाच गुण व्यतिकराकारो निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः because that S symbol is coming so say that word together निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस् tadupadanam that we're going to break tadupadanam next word starts with the atmanam leelaya srijat मैत्रेयोवाच गुणव्यतिकराकारो निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस्तदुपादानम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत्
मैत्रेय उवाच गुणव्यतिकराकारो निर्विशेष प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस्तदुपादानम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत्
And the first line, Sabita, guna vyatikarakaro.
गुणव्यतिकराकारो निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस्तदुपादानम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत्
मैत्रेयोवाच गुणव्यतिकराकारो निर्विशेषो प्रतिष्ठितः पुरुषस्तदुपादानम् आत्मानं लीलया सृजत्
विश्वं वै ब्रह्म तन्मात्रं संस्थितं विष्णु मायया ईश्वरेण परिच्छिन्नं कालेनाव्यक्तमूर्तिना विश्वं वै ब्रह्म तन्मात्रं संस्थितं विष्णुमायया ईश्वरेण परिच्छिन्नं कालेनाव्यक्तमूर्तिना
विश्वं वै ब्रह्म तन्मात्रं संस्थितं विष्णुमायया ईश्वरेण परिच्छिन्नं कालेनाव्यक्तमूर्तिना
विश्वं वै ब्रह्म तन्मात्रं संस्थितं विष्णुमायया ईश्वरेण परिच्छिन्नं कालेनाव्यक्तमूर्तिना
यतेदानीं तथाग्रे च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशम् you cannot break that word much so पश्चादप्येतदीदृशम् सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्राकृतो वैकृतस्तु यः यतेदानीं तथाग्रेश्च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशं सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्राकृतो वैकृतस्तु यः
यथेदानीं तथाग्रे च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशं सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्राकृतो वैकृतस्तु यः
यथेदानीं तथाग्रे च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशं सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्राकृतो वैकृतस्तु यः
काल द्रव्य गुणैरस्य त्रिविधः प्रतिसंक्रमः आद्यस्तु महतः सर्गो गुण वैषम्यमात्मनः. So here is where you will start seeing adhyah first, then it will come dvitiya, tritiya, chaturtha, like this. First the 6 of them he just recaps right before he goes to the description. Kala dravya gunairasya त्रिविधः प्रतिसंक्रमः आद्यस्तु महतः सर्गो गुणवैषम्यमात्मनः.
कालद्रव्यगुणैरस्य त्रिविधः प्रतिसंक्रमः आद्यस्तु महतः सर्गो गुणैवैषम्यमात्मनः.
कालद्रव्यगुणैरस्य त्रिविधः प्रतिसंक्रमः आद्यस्तु महतः सर्गो गुणवैषम्यमात्मनः.
द्वितीयस्त्वहमो यत्र द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियोदयः भूतसर्गस्तृतीयस्तु तन्मात्रो द्रव्यशक्तिमान्. द्वितीयस्त्वहमो यत्र द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियोदयः भूतसर्गस्तृतीयस्तु तन्मात्रो द्रव्यशक्तिमान्.
द्वितीयस्त्वहमो यत्र द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियोदयः भूतसर्गस्तृतीयस्तु तन्मात्रो द्रव्यशक्तिमान्.
द्वितीयस्त्वहमो यत्र द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियोदयः भूतसर्गस्तृतीयस्तु तन्मात्रो द्रव्यशक्तिमान्.
चतुर्थ ऐन्द्रिय सर्गो यस्तु ज्ञानक्रियात्मकः वैकारिको देवसर्गः पंचमो यन्मयं मनः. चतुर्थ ऐन्द्रिय सर्गो यस्तु ज्ञानक्रियात्मकः वैकारिको देवसर्गः पंचमो यन्मयं मनः.
चतुर्थ ऐन्द्रियः सर्गो यस्तु ज्ञानक्रियात्मकः वैकारिको देवसर्गः पंचमो यन्मयं मनः.
चतुर्थ ऐन्द्रियः सर्गो यस्तु ज्ञानक्रियात्मकः वैकारिको देवसर्गः पंचमो यन्मयं मनः.
षष्ठस्तु तमसः सर्गो यस्त्व बुद्धि कृतः प्रभो षडिमे प्राकृता सर्गाः. Put a visarga there because we're going to pause there. Sargaha, वैकृतानपि मे शृणु. षष्ठस्तु तमसः सर्गो यस्त्वबुद्धिकृतः प्रभो षडिमे प्राकृता सर्गाः वैकृतानपि मे शृणु.
षष्ठस्तु तमसः सर्गो यस्त्वबुद्धिकृतः प्रभो षडिमे प्राकृताः सर्गाः वैकृतानपि मे शृणु.
षष्ठस्तु तमसः सर्गो यस्त्वबुद्धिकृतः प्रभो षडिमे प्राकृताः सर्गाः वैकृतानपि मे शृणु.
Let's switch next. Let me see who I had. Jayashree, Shankar, you can be a student, and Narayani. Okay. Rajo bhajo bhagavato, लीलेयं हरिमेधसः सप्तमो मुख्य सर्गस्तु षड्विधस्तस्तुषां च यः. Saying all this were created by the sarga. Now let me tell you what Brahma is going to create, which is the visarga portion. Rajo bhajo bhagavato लीलेयं हरिमेधसः सप्तमो मुख्य सर्गस्तु षड्विधस्तस्तुषां च यः.
रजो भाजो भगवतो लीलेयं हरिमेधसः सप्तमो मुख्यसर्गस्तु षड्विधस्तस्तुषां चयः.
Paisa
Once
once
only, right?
One tempo. We'll cover a lot today.
रजो बाजो भगवतो लीलेयं हरिमेधसः सप्तमो मुख्यसर्गस्तु षड्विधस्तस्तुषां चयः.
Here, the only takeaway in this is, he's saying that as far while Bhagavan creates a sarga, Brahma creates a visarga, he says as far as the creation purpose goes, the the Brahma has enough intelligence that Bhagavan has given him so to continue the process of creation. So it's as if Bhagavan himself is coming and creating, except that the passion element of Bhagavan, because he's pure sattva guna, the passion element of him has come and taken the form of Brahma to continue this process, right? That's all. He says there should be no difference between Brahma and Bhagavan in creation purposes, except that Bhagavan doesn't want to be directly involved. So a portion of his is showing up as Brahma, which is the passion element of him. Banaspatyoshadhi lata, comma, tvaksara virudho drumaha, utsrotasas, one word, utsrotasas tamah prayaha. Again, put a visarga because we're going to put a comma there. Prayaha. Antasparsha visheshinaha. Vanaspatyoshadhilata tvaksara virudho drumaha utsrotasastamah prayaha antasparsha visheshinaha.
वनस्पत्योषधिलता त्वक्सारा विरुधो द्रुमाः उत्स्रोतसस्तमः प्रायाः अन्तःस्पर्शाविशेषिणः. विशेषिणः
वनस्पत्योषधिलता त्वक्सारा विरुधो द्रुमाः उत्सरोतसस्तमः प्रायाः अन्तःस्पर्शाविशेषिणः.
Narayana, the second line, first word, utsrotas.
Oh, utsro. Thank you.
Slow. Okay.
Utsrotasas.
Tirascham ashtama sargaha, if you want to break at that mark, Tirascham ashtama sargaha, Soshta vimshat vidho mataha, that's Ashta vimshat, 28 different types. So Soshta vimshat vidho mataha, Avido bhuri tamaso, comma, Granagnya hridyavedinaha. Tiraschamashtama sargaha, Soshta vimshat vidho mataha, Avido bhuri tamaso, Granagnya hridyavedinaha.
तिरश्चाम् अष्टमः सर्गः सोऽष्टाविंशद्विधो मतः अविदो भूरि तमसो ग्रानज्ञा हृद्यवेदिनः.
तिरश्चामष्टमः सर्गः सोऽष्टाविंशद्विधो मतः अविदो भूरितमसो ग्राणज्ञा हृद्यवेदिनः.
Gaurajo Mahishah Krishnaha, comma, Sukaro Gavayo Ruruhu, Dvi Shaphav Pashavashcheme, comma, Avi Rushtrascha, so it's ish and a tra, Avi Rushtrascha Sattama. Gaurajo Mahishah Krishnaha, Sukaro Gavayo Ruruhu, Dvi Shaphav Pashavashcheme, Avi Rushtrascha Sattama.
गौरजो महिषः कृष्णः सूकरो गवयो रुरुः द्विषपाः this is a tongue twister. द्विषपाः पशवश्चेमे अविरुष्टश्च सत्तमा.
Underline, just you might have to say it again. Okay, so Dvishapah Pashavashcheme
द्विषपाः पशवश्चेमे द्विषपाः पशवश्चेमे अविरुष्टश्च सत्तमा.
Yeah. So he's just describing in this next few stanzas the various types of animals. So there's 28 creations, 28 types of animals, which are there. He's just describing those categories. So
गौरजो महिषः कृष्णः सूकरो गवयो रुरुः द्विषपाः पशवश्चेमे अविरुष्ट्रश्च सप्तम
Karoshvoshvataro. So it's Karo, Ashvo, Ashvataro, but all of them have the S symbol. So you say it together. Karoshvoshvataro Gauraha, comma, Sharabash Chamari Tatha, Ete Chaika Shapaha. That Visarga you have to say because Sha is coming later. Shapaha Kshattaha, comma, Shrunu Pancha Nakan Pashun. करोश्वोश्वतरो गौरः शरभश्चमरी तथा एते चैकशपाः क्षत्तः शृणु पञ्चनखान् पशून्
खरोष्वोष्वतरो गौरः शरभश्चमरी तथा एते चैकशपाः शतः शृणु पञ्चनकान् पशून्
Shattaha, from the comma is coming, right? On the third line there. So, ete chaikashapaha kshattaha.
एते चैकशपा அங்க விசர்கா இருக்கு இல்லையோ
The other, shapaha kshattaha.
एते चैकशपाः शतः ओके गॉट इट थैंक्स
करोष्वोष्वतरो गौरः शरभश्चमरी तथा एते शपाः शक्तः शृणु पञ्चनकान् पशून्
Tva srigalo briko vyagro, comma, marjarash shasha shallakau simha kapir gajah kurmo, comma, godhacha makaradayah. श्वासृगालो ब्रिको व्याघ्रो मार्जारः शशशल्लकौ सिंहः कपिर्गजः कूर्मो गोधा च मकरादयः
श्वासृगालो वृको व्याघ्रो मार्जारशशल्लकौ सिंहः कपिर्गजः कूर्मो गोदा च मकरादयः
and the kurmo long u, okay, there that
कूर्मो yeah.
स्वाश्रुगालो वृद्धो व्याघ्रो मार्जारः शशशल्लकौ सिंहः कपिर्गजः कूर्मो गोधा च मकरादयः
टंक गृद्र वट श्येन and then put a plus bhasa bhalluka barhinah, so that line is together. Hamsa sarasa chakrahva, put a plus again. Kakolukadayah, one word, kakolukadayah khagaha. Kankagridravadashyena bhasa bhalluka barhinah hamsa sarasa chakrahva kakolukadayah khagaha.
कंकगृध्रबकशेन भास भल्लूकबर्हिणः हंससारसचक्राः काकोलूकादयः खगाः
कङ्ककृदरपटश्येन भास भल्लूकबर्हिणः हंससारसचक्राः काकोलूकादयः खगाः
And the first two words, Kankagridra.
गृध्र
Arva srotastu navamaha, comma, kshattereka vidho nrinam, rajodikah karma paraha, put a visarga, comma, dukhecha sukhamaninaha. So this is not talking about the formation, like the ninth creation, ninth type of creation, right? Is the humans who are a lot of rajas in them, a lot of passion in them, and because of that, they keep chasing. Because of the karma, people get different births, right? So, but in this birth, you're generally born because you have a lot of karma to burn. And and then you're getting entangled in the rajas because of the passion, which is causing sukham and dukham in their mind, because they keep chasing after that, which is giving them this swings of happiness and sorrow. Arvaksrotastu navamaha क्षत्तेरेकविधो नृणां रजोदिकाः कर्मपराः दुःखे च सुखमानिनः.
Rajesh, அந்த first lineல க்ஷத்தரேகன்னு போட்டிருக்கே அது தே சக்தேன்னு
ஆமாம் ஆமாம் எனக்கும் ஷத்த ரேக்க போட்டிருக்கு.
I just broke it as kshattar eka. That's all. You can say it kshattar eka vidho nrinam. That's also correct. I just said kshattar eka vidho nrinam. That's all. The saying is just one type. The humans, it's saying is only a one type of humans. That's where the eka word is coming there. But
it's not shatte, right? That's what we
no, shattar eka.
Okay, thank you.
Shattar eka, I said, but yeah, let's see. Yeah, shattar eka or shattar eka.
अर्वाक्स्रोतस्तु नवमः षत्तरेकविधौ नृणां रजोदिखा कर्मपराः दुःखे च सुखमानिनः.
अर्वाक्स्रोतस्तु नवमः षत्तरेकविधो नृणां रजोदिकाः कर्मपराः दुःखे च सुखमानिनः.
वैकृतास् त्रय एवैते, देव सर्गश्च सप्तम वैकारिकस्तु यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्थूभयात्मकः. वैकृतास्त्रय एवैते देव सर्गश्च सप्तम वैकारिकस्तु यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्थूभयात्मकः.
वैकृतास्त्रय एवैते देवसर्गश्च सत्तम वैकारिकस्तु यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्थूभयात्मकः.
वैकृतास्त्रय एवैते देवसर्गश्च सत्तम वैकारिकस्तु यः प्रोक्तः कौमारस्थूभयात्मकः.
Like I said, the first 6 are sarga, the last 4 are visarga, but kaumaraha, we're referring to the 4 Sanat Kumaras. So I think the 2 Sanat Kumara, the Sanat Kumaras are a combination of sarga and visarga creation. Okay. Deva sargas chashta vidho, vibudaf pitaro suraha, pitaraha, asuraha, all the different words there, pitaro suraha. Gandharvapsarasas. So Gandharva, Apsaras, are all giving the names here, right? Pitaraha is referring to the Pitrus. So the Pitrus are nothing but, not to get into too much details because that will deviate the conversation, but when we depart and we have an intermediate transit point before we take the next birth, right? That's kind of where our primary soul is residing before it decides to incarnate into a different life in the next janma. So that's a Pitru Lokam. That's kind of little bit above the Bhulokam, the Bhuvar Loka in that plane, right? So the Pitrus are one. Then where is it? Which one? Okay, they Vibhuda Pitaraha, Asuraha, then Gandharvaha, Apsaraha, Siddhaha. Those are all the different beings. So Gandharvapsarasa Siddhaha, Visarga, Yakshas, Rakshamsi Charanas, that's the other types of beings, right? Yakshas and Charanas. Devasargaschashtavido Vibhudah Pitaro Suraha Gandharvapsarasa Siddhaha Yaksha Rakshamsi Charanaha.
Devasargaschashtavidho Vibhudah Pitaro Suraha Gandharvapsarasa Siddhaha Yaksha Rakshamsi Charanaha.
देवसर्गश्चाष्टविदो विबुधाः पितरो सुराः गन्धर्वाप्सरससिद्धाः यक्षरक्षांसि चारणाः.
भूत प्रेत पिशाचाश्च, विद्याद्राः किन्नरादयः. Rather than bhuta, peta, pishacha, then vidyadharas, and then kinnaras. Some of these, later on it'll. I'm trying to think. I'm just blanking out right now. Anyway, if it remembers, I'll tell you where the context of where some of these names comes later. I think later on, in some of these things, we'll say when that Nalakubara, Manigriva, and all, they become trees, right? And then that is one. And then later on, a person called Sudarshana will come, who's like in the form of a snake. And then Krishna will go just touch with his feet, and then Sudarshana will take his original form. So at that time, these names will come. Oh, he was a Gandhara, he was a Vidyadhara, right? All those names will come. So these are all higher celestial conscious beings who, for any number of reasons, would have descended down and taken a lower form, right? And so when Krishna Avadara comes, a lot of them get liberated, right? People who had come in that form. At that time, it will say, oh, this person got back his form. Like even this Gajendra Moksham, that crocodile, he was a Gandharva, right? So he then takes that Gandharva form. So those are the names which are coming here.
So sorry, Rajeshri, in the Yuga, for this Yuga, there's no one like that because we don't hear any of. I mean, I know we do some of them. The elephant in Guruvayurappan temple, but we don't hear so many of those stories, right?
Because we don't know, right? See, you have to think of it as this has happened. All of this has happened over millions of years, right? So in this millions of years, you are getting these one-off scenarios, right? Of people, of beings which have come like this. That is because there was somebody there who was able to recognize that something like this, this person was. And because all of these are like Vyasa and few others are telling it, you know what? There was this person called Gajendra, who came down. There was a person called who was a Gandharva, who had cursed. So these are like important stories where Bhagavan has come to rescue. There could be so many instances where some of these Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, whoever are probably roaming amongst us as because of any number of reasons they got downgraded, right? One of us could be one of those, right? For all we know, right? We just don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So one other question. Okay, you finish your. I have one more question.
I'm just saying, sometimes when somebody knows where Bhagavan has come and helped out, then it is made visible to people. Otherwise, there could be so many things happening all over the world which we just are not aware of, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this question is always in my mind. I thought even the Jivatma, is it because we said that based on the karma plan, we have rebirth coming, and then you get through that and go back. It's a cyclic process as long as you get to the nil balance, or the power punyam both tallies out, right? So in that process, is it true that there are only finite number of Jivatma? How do we understand that when you think about mathematically? No, there's no way to think like that, right?
A complicated question, but there is no limit to a finite number because it's just constantly getting generated. Number of souls are constantly getting generated. So there is no limit. So it's not like there's X number which is getting divided across the 14.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Mathematically, this cannot be a problem to state.
Yeah. There could be infinite number who are just coming. A lot of who are waiting to take birth somewhere too.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be in that state. There are so many which are there in this 14 worlds. There are so many who are not yet born, but in a waiting state. There are so many souls which are yet to be created. So it could be like all over the place,
Okay, thanks.
I also heard that it's kind of a cycling, right? Based on the papa, they may even go back to the an animal or fish, thing like that. Some of them can get upgraded to a human and they can come in. It's like kind of balances out.
But I think Vijaya's question was, is there a limit to number of souls which can exist in the 14 worlds? And my answer was, there's no limit to the fixed number of souls. More souls could also get created at any point in time, Okay, so we'll just switch. So நம்ம எதுல நிறுத்தினோம் ஞாபகம் இருக்கா?
நம்ம என்ன முடிக்கல 28 முடிக்கணும்.
28ல we have to say.
Okay. Bhuta preta pishachascha vidyadrah kinnaraadayah dashaite vidurakhyataha sargaste vishwasrikritaha.
Is that 28, Rajeshji?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my book has the 27 has. Oh, okay, I understand. 27 has 3 lines. So now I have to separate. Thank you.
Bhuta preta pishachascha vidyagrah kinnaradayah dashaite vidurakhyata sargaste vishwasrikritaha. அங்க எங்க காமா இருக்கு செகண்ட் லைன்ல இல்லையா?
Vidurakhyataha after that.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Bhuda preda pishachascha विद्याद्राहि किन्नरादयः दशैते विदुराख्याताः सर्गास्ते विश्वसृक्कृताः.
We'll switch right now. Sudha, you can be a student, and Vanigar, you can be. Ataf, so this Sindhuji, in my book, the 29 has 3 lines, right? So maybe just moved around. Ataf param pravakshyami, comma, vamshan manvantarani cha, evam rajah plutas srashtaha, we'll add a visarga there and comma, srashtaha, kalpadishvatma, one word, kalpadishvatma bhur harihi, Srijatya moga sankalpaha, again visarga comma, because you're putting a comma there, sankalpaha, atmaivatmanam, one word, atmaivatmanam atmana, atah param pravakshyami vamshan manvantarani cha, evam rajah plutasrashtaha kalpadishvatma bhurharihi सृजत्य मोग संकल्पः आत्मैवात्मानमात्मनः.
अतः परं प्रवक्ष्यामि वशान् मन्वन्तराणि च एवं रजः प्लुतः स्रष्टाः कल्पादिष्वात्मभूर्हरिः सृजत्यमोघसङ्कल्पः आत्मैवात्मानमात्मना.
First line after the comma on the word Vamshan Manvantarani cha.
Vamshan. Okay. Now, okay. Say.
Vani Garu, you there? Mute.
Rajesh Gar, can I do it next time? I'm not.
Sure. No worries, no worries. Let me just see who else I had today. Shanti is not on, right? Shanti is not on. Gopiji is not on. Okay, Sri Meera, Ninga, Nikki, step in.
अतः परं प्रवक्ष्यामि वंशान् मन्वन्तराणि च एवं रजः प्लुतः स्रष्टाः कल्पादिष्वात्मभूर्हरिः सृजत्यमोघसङ्कल्पः आत्मैवात्मानमात्मना.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे दशमोऽध्यायः.
Rajesh, ஒரு question on the 29 sloka second line le evam rajah pluptasa.
Plu, P-L-U, plutah. So
it's half P, right? Half plup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plutah.
Okay, thank you.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे दशमोऽध्यायः.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां तृतीयस्कन्धे दशमोऽध्यायः.
Ata ekodashodhyayah, start the 11. I'll tell the meaning of this in the next class, but this is really talking about the smallest of being to the largest of being, and then the smallest of time to the largest of time. So this is where the Brahma's Kalpa and all of those details will come, which we'll cover next class. Maitreyo vacha charamas sad visheshanam, you can break at that ma, visheshanam. Next word starts with a aneko samyuta sada paramanus sa vigneyo, comma, nrinam aikya brahmoyatah. Maitreyo vacha charamasad visheshanam aneko samyuta sada paramanus sa vigneyo nrinam aikya brahmoyatah.
मैत्रेयो वाच चरमसद्विशेषाणाम् अनेको संयुतः सदा परमाणुः स विज्ञेयो नृणाम् ऐक्यभ्रमो यतः.
मैत्रेयो वाच चरमसद्विशेषाणाम् अनेको संयुतः सदा परमाणुः स विज्ञेयो नृणाम् ऐक्यं भ्रमो यतः.
Tata eva padarthasya, comma, स्वरूपावस्थितस्य, one word, स्वरूपावस्थितस्य यत् कैवल्यं परम महान्, that न, you break it in, comma, next word starts with a, avisesho nirantarah. सत एव पदार्थस्य स्वरूपावस्थितस्य यत् कैवल्यं परममहान् अविशेषो निरन्तरः.
सत एव पदार्थस्य स्वरूपावस्थितस्य यत् कैवल्यं परममहान् अविशेषो निरन्तरः.
तत एव पदार्थस्य स्वरूपावस्थितस्य यत् कैवल्यं परममहान् अविशेषो निरन्तरः.
एवं कालोऽप्यनुमितः, सौक्ष्म्ये स्थौल्ये च सत्तम संस्थान भुक्त्या भगवान्, again in we break it, भगवान्, अव्यक्तो व्यक्त भुक् विभुः. एवं कालोऽप्यनुमितः सौक्ष्म्ये स्थौल्ये च सत्तम संस्थान भुक्त्या भगवान् अव्यक्तो व्यक्त भुक् विभुः.
एवं कालोऽप्यनुमितः सौक्ष्म्ये स्थौल्ये च सत्तम संस्थान भुक्त्या भगवान् अव्यक्तो व्यक्त भुक् विभुः.
The first word after the comma, saukshmi, iksh, saukshmi.
Saukshmi.
Okay.
एवं कालोऽप्यनुमितः सौक्ष्म्ये स्थौल्ये च सत्तम संस्थान भुक्त्या भगवान् अव्यक्तो व्यक्त भुक् विभुः.
कालः परमाणुर्वै, यो भुङ्क्ते परमाणुतां सतो विशेष भुक् यस्तु, स कालः परमो महान्. स कालः परमाणुर्वै यो भुङ्क्ते परमाणुतां सतो विशेष भुग्यस्तु स कालः परमो महान्.
सकालः परमाणुर्वै यो भुङ्क्ते परमाणुतां सतो विशेष भुग्यस्तु सकालः परमो महान्.
सकालः परमाणुर्वै यो भुङ्क्ते परमाणुतां सतो विशेष भुक्यस्तु सकालः परमो महान्.
अनुर्द्वौ परमाणु लॉन्गु स्यात्, त्रसरेणुस्त्रयस् स्मृतः जालार्क रश्म्यभगतः, खमेवानुपतन्नगात्. That's one word, खमेवानुपतन्नगात्. अनुर्ध्वौ परमाणु स्यात् त्रसरेणुस्त्रयस्मृतः जालार्क रश्म्यभगतः खमेवानुपतन्नगात्.
अनुर्ध्वौ परमाणु स्यात् त्रसरेणुस्त्रयः स्मृतः जालार्क रश्म्यभगतः खमेवानुपतन्नगात्.
अनुर्ध्वौ परमाणु स्यात् त्रसरेणुस्त्रयस्मृतः जालार्क रश्म्यभगतः खमेवानुपतन्नगात्.
त्रसरेणु त्रिकं भुङ्क्ते, यः कालः त्रुटिस्मृतः शतभागस्तु वेधस् स्यात्. So it's an it and a thai there, so that it we put a comma, स्यात्. त्रैस् त्रिभिस्तु लवस्मृतः त्रसरेणु त्रिकं भुङ्क्ते यः कालः स त्रुटिस्मृतः शतभागस्तु वेधः स्यात् त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु लवस्मृतः.
त्रसरेणु त्रिकं भुङ्क्ते यः कालः स त्रुटिस्मृतः शतभागस्तु वेधः स्यात् त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु लवस्मृतः.
त्रसरेणु त्रिकं भुङ्क्ते यः कालः स त्रुटिस्मृतः शतभागस्तु वेधः स्यात् त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु लवस्मृतः.
ராஜேஷ், சாரி, இந்த லாஸ்ட் லைன்ல அந்த சியாத்துக்கு அப்புறம் த்ரை ஆக்கணுமா? அது தை தானே இருக்கு.
त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु, yeah, sorry, त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु. I think I said try, my bad, yeah. And then 3 is coming later, but त्रैस्त्रिभिस्तु. Nimeshas Trilavo Nyeyah, comma, put a visarga there, Nyeyah, comma. Amna Taste Trayah Kshanaha. So that visarga you have to say after Trayah Kshanaha. Kshanan Pancha Viduh Kashtam, comma, Lagu Ta Dasha Panchachar. Nimeshastrilavo Gneyah Amna Taste Trayah Kshanaha. Kshanan Pancha Viduh Kashtam Laguta Dasha Panchachar.
निमेषत्रिलवो ज्ञेयः आम्ना तस्ते त्रयः क्षणः क्षणान् पञ्चविदुः काष्ठां लघुता दश पञ्च च
निमेषस्त्रिलवो ज्ञेयः आम्ना तस्ते त्रयः क्षणः क्षणान् पञ्चविदुः काष्ठां लघुता दश पञ्च च
Laguni vai samamnatha, dasha pancha cha nadika, te dve muhurtah praharaha, shadyamas sapta va nrinam. Laguni vai samamnatha, dasha pancha cha nadika, te dve muhurtah praharaha, shadyamas sapta va nrinam.
लघूनि वै साम्नाथा
Samamnatha.
लघूनि वै समाम्नाथा दश पञ्च च नाडिका ते द्वे मुहूर्त प्रहरः षड्यामः सप्त वा नृणाम्
लघूनि वै समाम्नाता दश पञ्च च नाडिका ते द्वे मुहूर्तः प्रहरः षड्यामः सप्त वा नृणाम्
द्वादशार्ध फलोन्मानं, चतुर्भिः चतुरङ्गुलैः स्वर्णमाशैः कृतच्छिद्रं, यावत् प्रस्थजलप्लुतम्. द्वादशार्धफलोन्मानं चतुर्भिश्चतुरङ्गुलैः स्वर्णमाशैः कृतच्छिद्रं यावत् प्रस्थजलप्लुतम्.
द्वादशार्धफलोन्मानं चतुर्भिश्चतुरङ्गुलैः स्वर्णमाशैः कृतच्छिद्रं यावत् प्रस्थजलप्लुतम्
द्वादशार्धफलोन्मानं चतुर्भिश्चतुरङ्गुलैः स्वर्णमाशैः कृतच्छिद्रं यावत् प्रस्थजलप्लुतम्
Yamash Chatwarash Chatwaro. So both this is Ish and the Cha, Chatwaro, Martyanam Ahani Ubhe Paksha Pancha Dashahani, short E, Shukla Krishnascha Manada. I mean, I wouldn't get into the meaning right now, but this kind of literally talks about from the distance the smallest subatomic particle travels, which is the smallest unit of time. It keeps on building, and now it has right now come to Krishna Paksha and Shukla Paksha of a month, right? The waxing and the waning of the moon, and then it will keep going like that. So and then it will connect to the time of the Devas and the Pitras, which is why we do Tarpanam once every month. Then it will go to the Deva time, then it will go to Brahma's time, and it will just keep on building and scaling from there. Yamhaschattvaraschattvaro Martyanam Ahani Ubhe Pakshah Panchadashahani Shuklah Krishnascha Manada.
यामाश्चत्वारश्चत्वारो मर्त्यानाम् अहनि उभे पक्ष पञ्चदशाहानि शुक्लकृष्णश्च मानद
यामाश्चत्वारश्चत्वारो मर्त्यानाम् अहनि उभे पक्षः पञ्चदशाहानि शुक्लः कृष्णश्च मानद.
One more and stop. Tayo Amuchayo Masaha, Pitrunam Tadaharnisham Dvau Tavrutush Shadayanam, Dakshinam Chotaram Dibi, short E. Tayo Samuchayo Masaha Pitrunam Tadaharnisham Dvau Tavrutush Shadayanam, Dakshinam Chotaram Dibi.
तयो समुच्चयो मासः पितॄणां तदहर्निशं द्वौ तावृतः षडयनं दक्षिणं चोत्तरं दिवि
तयो समुच्चयो मासः पितॄणां तदहर्निशं द्वौ तावृतुः षडयनं दक्षिणं चोत्तरं दिवि
Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda, Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai, Kahena Vacha Manasendriye Va Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat, Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami. At some point, maybe when we do the full day one Parayanam sometime this August, we kind of have to do a recap of, because we keep doing it incrementally, and sometimes when you keep doing it incrementally, you lose the sight of the bigger picture of what transpired in first canto, what transpired in second canto and third canto, right? But at some point when we have time, we'll spend some time on it, right? To kind of do a recap of each of these cantos, right? Anyway, next weekend, no class, okay? Because I'll be in Puerto Rico, so the timing will not work out anyways. But if any of you want to join to practice anything, feel free. I think the link is always open, okay, so that anyone can join, and then we'll meet up the weekend after that.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you,
Enjoy your
Rajesh.
vacation.
Have a nice
Have a good trip.
vacation.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Bye.
Bye.